Hi, I'm Andrea Benton from Raisingboys.tv, and today I am super thrilled. I am going to be interviewing Dr. Miele. I've said that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Cool. And she is an amazing doctor. She talks about sports prevention and injuries with kids, and I have two boys, so I thought I would take this opportunity just to ask you about sports injuries in kids. And mine are 5 and 7, and I just wanted to get your perspective on kids injuries and how I can prevent them as a mom. Because actually, my oldest, he's already actually had a bit of a sports injury, so I just want to make sure that I'm doing as much as I can as a parent. So can you just briefly tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, currently I own I own a business called Mind Over Body Athletics,
Oh,
where
wow.
I am a personal trainer and
Yeah.
a sports psychology consultant, where I work with pretty much everybody, children,
Yeah.
adults, anybody in terms of sports, sport injury prevention, sports psychology in terms of anxiety and overcoming sport injury.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. Nice. Okay, so this is right up your alley. So I've got three questions that I wanted to ask you. So as I said, I'm a mom of two boys, and they do play soccer. And so I know that actually I saw an infographic recently, and I was very surprised about how prevalent soccer injuries actually are. So what can I do as a mom to prevent my kids from getting soccer injuries?
Well, what type of injuries are you seeing? And then I can kind of break
Yeah,
things
for
down a
sure.
little bit.
So I've seen quad injuries. My son actually was totally random. They were playing soccer inside, and he got a knee in the quad.
Yeah.
And it actually, he must have been, like, his quad must have been tensed up because it actually ended up bruising. He was out for about 4 weeks. So he's fine, but I do know that he's 8 years old. For an 8-year-old kid, he actually plays soccer at a high level, and I always ask him, like, how are your quads? And he'll say his left quad hurts, but then sometimes he'll say his right quad hurts, and that's surprising to me. So a
Okay.
lot of quadricep injuries. Um, yeah, I just see a lot of quads and a lot of knees. I worry about the knees too because he's had some bonks on the knees.
Okay, well, in terms of contusions or any type of
Yeah.
bruising, in a quadriceps, when kids get hit or anybody gets hit, there's going to be that chance of injury. That's very difficult to prevent.
Okay.
You want to make sure they're warmed up and that they're
Yep.
stretching properly.
Okay.
As they get older, and not so much when they're 8 years old, but there's typically a disparity between the strength in hamstrings and quadriceps. So that's something that you want to look for when they hit the tween years at 12 and 13 years old. With that being said, comes the ACL and the knee type of injuries that you want to have them, be preventative now.
Yes.
So I don't know what their coaches practice with them in terms of warm up, but what
Yeah.
I basically recommend is a dynamic warm up
Okay.
where they are able to warm up the muscles in the fashion in which they play. So the functional movements that they typically would use in terms of kicking, so there's something called shoulder kicks or butt kicks to stretch out the quads in a motion fashion, again, of which they would play.
They play. Okay.
So I always recommend a dynamic warm-up. Also, to learn how to squat and land properly, because learning how to bend and squat properly, which is recruiting, not only core muscles but quadriceps, your glutes, you're strengthening your lower body, and with that, if they're squatting properly, where their knee is more at a 90-degree angle, where the knee's
Mm.
not going over the toes, they're not putting pressure on their knee, which later on, unfortunately, athletes, especially soccer players, incur ACL injuries. There,
Okay.
there's a variety of different ways injury can, occur. You're playing on the turf,
Oh,
where you can
yes.
just run and stick and you just rip your knee out, and there's not too much you can really do to prevent that. You can try to strengthen up the area and the legs as they grow older.
Mm-hmm.
For 8-year-olds, you would hope that it wouldn't be common that they have ACL injuries. There are
Yeah.
young children who would have one, but that would be more type of injury where they stick, they plant, and their tibia goes one way and the femur goes goes the other, and they rip out their knee.
Their knee. Okay.
So, but in terms of prevention, as they get older, as I said, there's a disparity in strength,
Okay.
and they have to strengthen everything. And the best thing that coaches can do from now at this age on, I
Mm-hmm.
have a 7-year-old about to be 8-year-old, and I have a
Oh,
4-year-old,
really?
so two girls, and they're very
Wow.
athletic. And one of the things I'm always having them do is how to land properly and You could probably go on actually my website and see that I
Yeah.
believe I have the technique of landing properly. I have one of my former basketball players executing the movements. A few of my videos on there
Yeah.
demonstrate.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. I will check that out because that's really good to know because I actually had no idea. And I certainly know that my coaches, because both my boys play soccer and none of them are doing anything like this. It's pretty much just run around for a few minutes and then you go. And I don't know what it's like where you are, but certainly in Canada, there's a big movement right now to play on turf versus grass because grass you can only play, say, 12 hours a week, whereas turf is 24/7. And I'm starting to hear stories, although I don't know if this is really true, but turf is much harder on their bodies, right? It's not as natural as the grass. Is that, do you know anything about that or have you heard anything about that?
Well, because I'm also a sport and recreation forensic expert, I can't really give any kind of opinion on that because I
Mm,
haven't researched it.
okay.
However, when you're playing on the grass, the one thing I can say, and this is speaking from experience as an athlete myself, I played
Hmm.
professional women's tackle football in the state of
Nice.
Arizona, yeah, for about 2.5 years. And what I found the difference between turf and football being as a player, as an athlete, and that's what my opinion right now is primarily based on, would be that, grass has their lumps and their curves and stuff, and you'll see, your ankles get sore, or you can twist your ankle because you land in a divot. And in
Mm,
turf, can turf be hard on the body? Anything can be hard on the
okay.
body. So, I mean, grass can be frozen, and it can be as
Yes.
hard as turf. So it's very hard to give an opinion on that unless there's been some real big research done on it, which I have not done.
Okay.
So that's pretty much all I can kind of give you on
No, no, that's great.
that.
No, that's great, and I totally appreciate that because from because where our club is actually trying to go is we are trying to go more turf because turf is more durable and communities are more interested in turf than grass. So I just wondered if you had a perspective on that. So I totally appreciate that.
And you can
Um,
play indoors, you can play all year
yes,
round. There's
you
nothing wrong with that,
Oh,
yeah.
totally, right? Totally. No, it's awesome. Okay, so moving on to the next question. So thank you for the first one. So my question is, my kids are both focused on soccer, and in Canada, hockey is super big, but we're not a hockey family. My kids are not interested in being on the ice at all. Totally not. So my question to you is, they're totally soccer fiends, but should I be branching out? Is it better at this age, and even as they get older, is it better to do one sport or is it better to just do a couple of sports?
It's better to do a variety of sports. Let me tell
Okay.
you why. What happens with one sport, you're working one specific set of muscles
Yeah.
that pertain to, again, the functionality and the movements of that specific sport.
Okay.
When you have children participating in a variety of sports, for instance, baseball,
Mhm.
now you're using different muscles and you're moving in a different capacity. You're twisting, you're swinging, with basketball, you're
Yes.
shooting, you're jumping, you're landing. In soccer, it's almost one-dimensional movement. You're staying in the same type of what they call plane. So you're running in a specific plane, and you're utilizing muscles and they're strengthening them. However, that's where overtraining and burnout can become because you're not using different areas. So for instance, if I was strictly just playing soccer and I
Mhm.
decided, okay, I'm going to play basketball today, I'd probably be sore in places I would not typically be sore for
Okay.
soccer because I'm utilizing and recruiting different sets of muscles.
Okay.
It's always better, and I always preach to parents,
Yes.
to try to have a multi-sport or dual sport athlete. Just because one, it gives them a variety, it keeps them
Yes.
from burning out their muscles, because if they're starting so young,
Yes.
I mean that they're going to be injured, but it does help strengthen the body as a whole.
Okay.
And functionally, you want everything, in terms of physiology and
Mhm.
anatomically, to work in conjunction with each other. And you don't want to try to limit because they'll limit their movement.
Okay. Yeah, and that's really good to know. And the other thing that I find is just even psychologically, he's a little burnt out just of like going on the soccer field and scoring goals and just I think my oldest anyways, he just wants to try something else. Just because I can see like he loves soccer, but it's like, really, I'm going to do another drill? Like
Yeah.
it's boring, right? Yeah.
Well, absolutely, and psychologically, it's great because they learn other terms of competition, and
Good.
and it's a different mindset for different sports.
Yes.
For soccer, if you're visualizing how to be a better soccer player, there's different areas you're practicing your kicking and your moves and your strategies. And in baseball, you're swinging, and now you have hand-eye coordination, or in basketball, hand-eye coordination, as opposed to soccer is like a foot
Yes.
coordination. So yeah, it actually mentally, physically, psychologically, and all different levels. And I always recommend that parents have their children participate in different sports. And down the line, if they need to focus on one, then they can focus on one, but still recreationally play something else just to keep it, different, but also to keep their muscles fresh, so to speak.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. That's great. And then moving on to my last question. So we all think, parents typically think that our kids are going to be the next Beckham, Messi, whoever it is, right? Wayne Gretzky, whoever, right? But at the end of the day, and I'm learning this, that, that's just not going to happen, right? It's a very small percentage of kids that go on to be pro. But yet I'm at a soccer field, and, I can hear parents yelling at the coach or that's coaching these kids or yelling at their kid. The kid's just there to have fun. So what would you say to parents to kind of calm it down? Because at the end of the day, we're all inside more. We all have technology more. Isn't it just more important that the kids have fun and, are going and being active than go pro?
Well, that's two-pronged. It's very difficult sometimes with certain parents because certain parents never had the opportunity to be that athlete. So they're trying to live vicariously through their children. Is that a good thing? No, not at all. Psychologically, it can be damaging, and I've seen some children over the years. I mean, I've been training athletes for about 25 years, from probably ages 7 or 8 all the way through college and some semi-pro. Wow. So I've seen what parents' influence can do in a positive manner and what they can do in a negative manner. And I find that a lot of the parents who pressure their children young, the children tend to burn out and they don't want to participate in sports by the time they get to high school because they just burn out and they end up burning out mentally more than they do physically.
Really?
And you'll find that they may be the child that might be injured sometimes a little bit more because you got to remember, our bodies work together. Our mind and body work in conjunction of each other. If your mind is starting to break down, your body's going to break down. If your body starts to break down and you're not mentally strong, then mentally you're going to break down. It works hand in hand. So when you have parents who are pushing their children, they're not benefiting their child. There's a difference between pushing them and say, yeah, you can do it if the child really wants to do it, as opposed to you're playing soccer because I want you to be the next Beckham or whatever, and the best soccer player, or the next Mia Hamm or whatever.
Yes.
And that's where the parents, there needs to be a little bit of a red light. Unfortunately, they don't. And people like myself, when I train other people's children, I tell parents, listen, I do not want to waste your time. If you want me to help your child, I help them both training physically and psychologically to make them, I always make children that I work with feel like they hung the moon. I want them to feel like they're the best that they could ever be. And it may be the best that they ever be, but I let them know if they're going to be, especially my high school athletes, you're not going to be a Division I athlete. But if you want to be Division II or Division III, I think you have the capability. If I don't think they can walk and chew gum, I tell the parents too. Because one, I don't want to take people's money.
Yes.
But second, they like when I work with their children because they know ethically that's how I am. I'm ethically sound. And because I help their children fulfill different areas of their lives. So if these children are not going to go to Division I, Division II, pro, whatever, they know after working with me in life they're going to be capable of being mentally and physically strong. So a lot of parents will come back knowing that their kids haven't been. But most of the children that I have trained, and I have to say, a lot of them played college basketball.
Wow.
Because I have worked with them for a long period of time, and most of them are very successful. So, but on the other note, I do have parents who push them, and I tell them, please don't push your children. You're hurting them. And sometimes they come back where they get upset, and sometimes they thank me.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to identify it. It's very difficult for a youth coach to step on the sideline and say, hey, mom and dad, chill out.
Yes, it is very difficult.
It causes ethical problems. It causes issues. People take it personal, and sometimes parents don't even realize they're doing it. Maybe they need to step back, and maybe some of them will see this video and step back and say, hey, reevaluate themselves. Am I doing this with my children? Because, being a Division I former athlete and coach, not a Division I coach, but I've been a coach for many years on a variety of sports and also consulting many people on sports and sport injury prevention. My children are about to be 5 and 8 years old, and I have 2 girls, and I'm concerned that I do that with them. I joke with them and say, mommy wants her Olympic athlete, I need you to be my gold medalist. But I joke with them, and if they do it great. I plant the seed so they know that they can have that capability, but I don't push.
Yeah.
Either one of my children play basketball right now. Basketball's my love.
Really?
They play volleyball, softball. My oldest is now saying, Mommy, maybe I want to play basketball. I'm going to be tall like you. And
Oh,
I go,
that's
if you want to. I don't push it
yeah.
because I want them to come into their own, and hopefully some parents can do the same.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because for me, actually, I had a light bulb moment because my son, so he's U9 in our club, they have a choice of going house or they go select. So the club knows him and they put him in house. And I actually had to take a step back and say, okay, is that the right thing for my son? And actually it is. He's not that aggressive kid. And a parent told me that, especially with boys, like their maturity is here and their skill level is here. And at some point you hope that they go like this.
They will meet.
And yes, and so you know what? Parker's not ready right now, but maybe in the future he will be. So I just have to continue to encourage, and he'll get there on his own time. But he has to do it. That's what I've learned. Because I'm super competitive too. I row. I've like thrown my shoulder out, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's not my kid. Okay, that's not me.
It's funny
Right?
that you say that because my oldest has like the body of an athlete. She was born
Yes.
ripped. But my youngest is actually determined and she wants to do it. And the poor thing, I mean, she can hardly walk and chew gum sometimes.
Oh
But she has it. So it's like one of them has the mental strength and one of them has the physical strength.
no. Yes.
And at one point, I do believe they'll meet. I know growing up, I was always very athletic, but mentally I was not a little weaker, but I was always nicer and let people push me around.
Yeah.
When I started to realize that I wanted to be better some of those other girls, it all came together. And it happened around 12 and 13. The tween years are very difficult for children in terms of injuries, in terms of growth spurts, male and female.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with the coaches too. Have the proper coaches working with your children. A lot of parents want to volunteer and coach, and they don't realize how much of a disservice sometimes they're doing for kids.
Oh, and you know what? That's actually really good to know because I do think, because you want to volunteer, but you have to have that right mindset. You have to understand a lot more than I think just, okay, I'll sign up and go on the field. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, this was awesome. Thank you very much.